give everybody a chance to tune on in before I dive into the topic for the day. Some quick motivation, some quick inspiration for you on this wonderful Sunday morning. Hopefully you all are having a fabulous Sunday morning thus far. Woke up in peace, woke up on the right side of the bed, as they call it. If you didn't wake up on that right side of the bed, then you still have an opportunity and you still have time to turn that around. So give everybody a chance to come on in, man. Come through the chat before I start building on this topic for the day. Feeling real peaceful this morning. It's always good, man. Got to maintain your peace, got to maintain your balance, got to stay centered out here in the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of all this wickedness. Got to stay righteous, got to stay true to yourself. That's important. It's imperative, it's a necessity. People are constantly striving to knock you off your square out here. So you got to stay true to yourself. You got to stay on that square. Got to stand on the truth, got to stand for something. As they say, if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And that's what's happening out here. A lot of us don't stand for anything. A lot of us don't have a foundation. Therefore, we fall right into that pit of ignorance and we fall for any and everything out here. So you got to find you some things, man. You got to find you some principles. Got to find you some morals, man. Something to stand for. That is important. That is important and that is imperative, man. Find you something to stand for, or else, like they say, you will fall for anything. And we don't want you falling for anything out here. Evan, peace. What's going on with you, my brother? And all is good in my universe. We maintaining and we holding up. How everything going on your end, brother? Nero, what's going on? Peace. How you living? How this Sunday morning treating you? Got a little sermon that I need to get off my chest. BYG342, what's going on? You haven't missed much, man. I was just giving everybody a chance to scroll in before I started diving into the topic for the day. So you didn't miss much, man. I was just letting everybody know that it's important that we stay true to ourselves and we stand on our square out here, because there's a lot of people striving to knock you off your square. So you got to stay true to yourself. You got to stand for something out here. As the quote says, you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, man. So you got to find you something to stand for. You got to find something that you're willing to die for out here. You cannot allow any and everybody to sell you anything and you continuously fall for it. We cannot be naive. We cannot be gullible. We have to stand. Montel, peace, what's going on? D Monty, what's going on with you, my brother? So it's important, man. We got a lot of gullible people out here, a lot of naive people. You cannot be that when it comes to yourself. You cannot be gullible and naive when it comes to self. It's got to be some things. It's got to be certain things that you just will not tolerate, that you will not compromise. It's got to be some principles that you will not compromise. Got to have some things that you're willing to stand for. Lindell, peace, what's going on? Plant God, peace, what's going on with you? TZ Frank, most definitely. And even with that statement, because I'm gonna bring out a quote, because I'm reading this book, and that's what led to the topic, the title of this video. So even with that, like it's cool that we believe that, because I can believe that also. But at the same time, I'd be lying to you if I said I did some things in my life that I don't regret. I'd be just flat out lying to you. I'll be flat out lying to you. So it's definitely some things that I regret doing in my life, whether or not I believe it happened for a reason, or whether or not I believe it was kind of like destined or natural, whatever the case may be. There's plenty of things that I have done that when I look back on it, I regret it. That don't necessarily mean that it's negatively impacting me. All that means is if I could go back and do it again, I definitely would have taken another approach. So definitely got things in my life that I regret. I look back on like, man, I probably shouldn't have moved like that. Probably should have did that. Definitely had situations like that. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But as always, you can learn from that. So when you look back on it and say, man, I shouldn't have moved like that, now you know. So now you are able to help the future generation in regards to helping them move more efficiently. Oh, D-Monty Magic, no doubt. No doubt, definitely the first rule. And that's part of self-preservation. That's part of that. Preserving self, standing on your truth, standing on your square. That's self-preservation. Can't allow anybody to sell you anything out here. Got to be certain things that you won't tolerate. Got to be certain things that you won't consume. It's like food, man. It's got to be certain foods that you're just not willing to consume because you know how detrimental that food can be for you. So, and that's just discipline. That's just discipline. Learning how to just stand on your square and stand on that truth and represent that truth and live that truth out. And a lot of people don't do that, man. That's why we have a lot of artificial individuals out here, because they don't stand for anything. They let other people decide what they should stand for. So that's the problem that we have a lot these days, man. We got artificial people out here that, like I said, other people control what they stand for. Other people control what they don't stand for. You got to control that. That's on you. You need to determine that. Tavon, peace, what's going on? But even, like, I ain't going to bring out the quote yet. I'm going to give people a little bit more time. But the book that I got for you is the book of the day. I've decided to live 120 years. I've decided to live 120 years, the ancient secret to longevity, vitality, and life transformation. This the book right here. Y'all know I'm always bringing up books, man, but this the book right here. I've decided to live 120 years. It's definitely the book, man. I got pretty much a quote or a passage in this book that kind of inspired this video. But y'all know I'm always bringing books to the surface, man. I'm always recommending some books. Oh, Plan God, most definitely. And that's the way we can shape it that way. But like I said, even still being able to look at it like that, I still got things that I did that I definitely regret doing. Even if I feel like it made me the person that I am today, it's still some things that if I go back, like if I could go back, I wouldn't lie to you. and that's me just being honest. You know, that's me just being honest with self. So it's definitely some moves that I made that, because at the time where I probably made the move, I knew that it was the wrong move to make, and I still made it. So it's little situations like that. And Brave, peace, what's going on? And Amber, most definitely. Most definitely. And that's just honesty. Like I said, those mistakes that I made, those regrets, those decisions that I regret, yep, they made me the person that I am, but I really wish I wouldn't have made them decisions, but it is what it is. It is what it is, but I bring that up. Master the Day, Body and Mind Fitness, peace, what's going on? But I bring that up and I want to bring out the passage in this book that kind of inspired that, the reason why I asked the question. So I'm going to just read this little passage, man, and it goes like this. According to a book, the book is The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. The most common regret of people facing death is this: I should have had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Here are some regrets expressed by the dying. I shouldn't have worked so much. I should have had the courage to express my feelings. I should have stayed in contact with my friends, and I should have made myself happier. These are some regrets by people that were on their deathbed. I'm going to repeat these regrets by people on their deathbed. I shouldn't have worked so much. I should have had the courage to express my feelings. I should have stayed in contact with my friends, and I should have made myself happier. So to sum it up, I should have had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Now listen, these are regrets by people who are basically about to die at any moment. That, just think about how depressing that is. You done made it to 90, 95 years old, and you on your deathbed, and you basically regret your whole entire life. You done made it to 90, 95, or 85, whatever the age is. You have made it to this deathbed, and you basically regret your whole entire life. That is not a way that I'm striving to go out, man. That is depressing. So you basically just spent 85, 90, 95 years of your life living how others expected you to live, and you wasn't doing things for yourself. That's crucial. And that's big. That's got to be a terrible feeling. And that's actually one of my biggest fears. That was one of my biggest fears. I was like, man, I do not want to go through life and then my life just ends and I haven't did anything that I wanted to do for myself. I didn't want to do anything that I didn't have in my mind to do. Like if I haven't accomplished my major goals, like I didn't want to go to my deathbed and look back on my life and say, man, I wish I would have opened that gym. Man, I wish I would have did this, that, and the third. Man, that was one of my biggest fears. Because again, you only got one life. So if you spend this one life doing things that others want you to do and you not doing things for yourself, what are you truly doing? You got to be able to do some things that's going to fulfill your inner peace and that's going to fulfill your happiness, man. You have got to do that. You have got to do that. Like that's a terrible way to feel. I can only imagine making it to 90, 95 and I'm pretty much regretting my whole entire existence and my whole entire life. And these are people that were on their deathbed, man. So I asked myself that question, man. If I was put on that deathbed and I was looking back on my life, man, how would I feel about it? And I had to just be honest with you. I had to be honest with myself. And that's what led to me starting to make the moves that I started to make, because I would look back on it and I'm like, man, I ain't happy about too much of it because I made some decisions that I knew I shouldn't have made that I still made. So it was like, man, I had to shift. I had to transition. I had to start making moves that I wanted to make. I had to start making moves that I felt was necessary for me to make. I had to stop living through other people. I had to stop listening to everybody else in regards to the direction that they felt like my life should go. I'm not gonna lie, that was influencing me. How everybody else felt that I should live and felt what I should do and all of that, man, that was influencing me. That was persuading me because, again, it was people that was close to you. It's people that's close to you. They gonna influence you. You'll be lying if you say that they don't, especially when you're younger. So that was all that was going through my mind. So I had decisions that I felt like I needed to make, and I had decisions that I felt like I should have made. If I would have made the decision, I felt like it would have worked out for the greater good. But then I had other people around me that I was close to, that I care for, basically was telling me to do the total opposite of what I was thinking. So again, it influenced me, persuaded me. So a lot of times that created confusion, that created that inner conflict. And then more times than none, I would roll with what they said because I trusted them, and I trusted them. Like, those are your elders. Those are people that you look up to, people that may have raised you. So you're going to trust their opinion on the matter. And sometimes you're going to roll with it, and you're going to go against your better judgment. I had to stop doing that, man, because when I read that, this ain't the first time that I came across that actual quote. I came across that quote in another book that I read, man, probably about a year or two ago. And that's when I really started to look at my life. It's like, man, if you sitting on your deathbed and you regretting your whole entire life, that's not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling. You done made it up to this point, and you didn't do anything that you were passionate about. You didn't do anything that you was interested in. That's not a good way to go out. It's not a good way to go out. D Monty Magic, yeah, and what's crazy is the only part that I couldn't relate to is when in this quote, when they said one thing that the people regretted that was on the deathbed is that they wish they would have stayed in contact with their friends. Listen, if I didn't stay in contact with you, it's for a good reason. So that part of it I can't relate to. I'm probably, like, if I was on my deathbed, I ain't gonna care anything pretty much about other people. I'm gonna care about if I did things that fulfilled my inner peace, like if I pursued things that I was passionate about and interested in. But the whole staying in contact with friends, at the end of the day, if you got cut off, if we no longer in contact, that's for a good reason. That's for a good reason. So I never regret that. If I didn't keep in contact with you, man, it's for a reason. It's for a reason, and I'm not gonna regret that. That's one thing I don't regret. I don't regret cutting a lot of people off. Like, I don't regret not communicating with a lot of people. I never regret that. Because again, dealing with all these people, it can be draining. So I don't never really regret that. I'm good with the solo dolo mentality. I'm good with the solo dolo mentality. So I never regret that aspect of life. Because again, if anything, some of the people that I probably was in contact with was bringing me down and preventing me from pursuing my endeavors. because you probably had to look out for them. Oh, Tavon, man, before you get to college, before you even get to college, you influence at the high school level, at the middle school level, at the elementary level. You influence pre-K. Preschool, you influence. Before you even get to college, man, you influenced by that. Magic Realms, peace, what's going on? And playing God most definitely. And sometimes, like I've talked about in the past, being that black sheep, it comes with its consequences, and it comes with its rewards. So at the end of the day, for the most part, when you a black sheep, I know you all can relate to that. More times than none, like the vision that you have for yourself is very unorthodox. And a lot of people can't understand the vision that you may have for yourself. They can't understand it at all. So when you that black sheep, you have this unorthodox vision, this unorthodox perspective, and it's hard for the average person to accept what it is that you're talking about. It's hard for the everyday average person to accept your vision when it's unorthodox, when you that black sheep. But at the end of the day, like we've discussed, you got to do what's best for you. You got to do what's best for you. The moment that thought arises, the moment that idea arises, you have to act on it. That's the only way to shift that paradigm and not live a life that you regret. Because you do not want to go out that way. You do not want to be on your deathbed regretting everything about life. That's not a good way to go, man. That's just not a good way to go. That's not what you're here for. We all have a purpose, man. We all have a purpose that we must define. You must define that purpose, and you must make sure you fulfill that purpose. You must do it. And like I said, I told y'all yesterday in the video that I made yesterday that I'm doing a fast right now. So I fasted yesterday. I had one smoothie and it was just water. But fasting is a good way to help discover what your purpose is. Man, when you fast and you clearing the mind, that's the best time to ask yourself some important questions like, who am I and what is my purpose? When you fast, and you will find that your clarity is a lot better. The mental clarity is a lot stronger. It's a lot better. So when you ask yourself these important questions while you fasting, more times than none, you're going to come up with an answer. And that's what this guy said in the book. That's what the author of this book that I pointed out, I've decided to live 120 years. That's how he came across his purpose. He fasted for I think it was 20 plus days. So he fasted and he was asking himself important questions like, who am I? So he was asking himself these questions during a fast. And that's when he came across the answer. So that's the best time. Like what they call soul searching. Y'all know I don't really like to use that term, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. So when you soul searching, the best time to do that is when you fasting. So if you really trying to dig deep and discover who you are, discover your true identity or activate that, man, go on the fast. Fast for about 5 to 7 days, man, and just ask yourself important questions. Study important material. Like read what they call the spiritual books or the self-help books, man. Surround yourself with all that positivity. And guess what? You're going to come across an answer. You're going to come across conclusions. That's the best time to do it because everything is clear. Your mind is not distorted because you're trying to process all the heavy foods that you've been consuming, all the processed foods that you've been consuming. So you're not processed, man. Your digestive system is not working, man. Everything is at ease. Everything is centering itself. Everything is moving efficiently when you fasting. You're getting rid of the toxins. You're getting rid of that negativity. You're getting rid of that bad energy. So that's important, man. If you soul searching and you digging deep, trying to discover your true identity and trying to discover your purpose, go on a fast, man. Go on a fast and do some meditation, affirmation, and all of that, man. I guarantee you're going to start getting vivid visions, man. You're going to have vivid dreams. And those dreams and those visions going to let you know what your purpose is, going to let you know what that passion is, if you don't already know it. If you already know it, then it's just going to give you ways to tackle that vision or to tackle that passion or to tackle that interest in regards to just making it stronger, making it better, helping you master it. Nikki Peace, what's going on? Saeed Baylor, when it comes to our relationships, listen, when it comes to distractions, the way that I view that, the only things are only a distraction if you allow it to be. So a relationship would only be a distraction if you allow it to be a distraction. And what do I mean by that? If you get in a relationship with the wrong person and you striving to make it work, basically trying to force it, then that's you making that a distraction. If you know that you are on a certain path or a certain journey, then you got to make sure you're dealing with somebody that understands that path and understand that journey. They may be on the same journey. Hence, y'all would be compatible. At that point, a relationship would not be a distraction. It would be a benefit. It would be something to help you become a better person. So at the end of the day, the only time something becomes a distraction is when we allow it. So if you considering your relationship to be a distraction, then it's time for you to exit that relationship because you and that person are not compatible. But that don't mean relationships in general are a distraction. Relationships are like guns and things of that nature. They're neutral. We make the relationship bad. We make the relationship a distraction. We make the relationship good based on our perception. But a relationship in and of itself is not harmful. It's not harmless. It's just neutral. It's just a relationship. D Monty Magic, I think one of the reasons why people say that you shouldn't inform people that you are fasting is probably because of the energy surrounding it, man, because you're supposed to do it, as they say, you're supposed to do it for personal reasons. So that's one of the reasons why they tell you not to let everybody know that you're fasting, because it's something that's supposed to be personal. But at the end of the day, if you at a function and somebody's striving to give you something to eat, then obviously you got to let them know that you're fasting. But one of the reasons why they say that it's supposed to be a personal thing that you do and you're not supposed to let everybody know. And then just the energy that surrounded it when you let people know that you're fasting. More times than none, it's going to be some negative energy surrounding it, man, because people don't understand what fasting is all about, even though all religions tell you that you should be doing some type of fasting. So I don't even understand that. But the energy that surrounds a fast is typically negative. How do I know? Because I get it all the time. And for the most part, like I said, everybody that follows a religion, your religion in some way, shape, or form lets you know that you should be fasting. So, I mean, fasting is an age-old practice. Savon, and that's typically what's happening. That's why a lot of people strive to dictate the lives of others, because they failed. Like, they failed in pursuing their passion and pursuing their interests. And they failed in creating the life that they wanted to live. So then they're going to try to live what they say vicariously through other people. So they're going to try to make you live the life that they failed to create. And a lot of parents do that to the children. They try to force their child to be what they should have been in their mind. And that's the wrong way to raise a child. That's the wrong way to raise a child, man. You got your child out here playing a sport that you should have made it pro in that sport, but you got injured. Now you feel like you finna force your son to be that. Maybe that's not his passion. Maybe that's not his interest. Maybe that's not his calling. If that so happened to be his passion, interest, calling, and all of that good stuff, then cool. But if it's not, don't force it. Don't force it. Saeed, you got it. And playing God, most definitely, you gotta be on the same page. The understanding must be understood. So if you in a dating circuit right now, man, and you going through a personal journey, like just a mental journey, you soul searching as we call it. If you're going through that type of journey, man, and you date, man, you gotta make sure the people that you are entertaining are on that same type of time, on that same type of journey. Because it's a difference between getting with somebody after you have done this soul searching, after you have been on this path and been walking it for a minute, opposed to when you are like right in the midst of it. It's a different ball game. It's a lot of things that you're going to have to do that person may not understand if you're in the midst of that journey, if you're in the midst of soul searching. Now, if you've been doing it, you've been on this journey and this path for a minute, then you may know how to deal with people better. But when you're in the midst of this journey, or if you just starting out, you got to deal with people according to that. You got to deal with people according to that, because it can be rough. dealing with people when you just starting out on that journey, when you just coming into consciousness, man, when you just coming into knowledge of yourself, or when you are in the midst of it. When you are in the midst, and what do I mean by being in the midst of the journey? Basically, when you starting to realize that everything you was once taught was a lie, and you trying to transition to an entirely new way of life. So that's being in the midst of it. Sometimes it's hard to like date, or it's hard to be with a person when you are in the midst of that type of transition. It can be complicated. It can be very complicated. But if the person that you entertaining can understand that, and they may be at the same point in their life, then I'm all for it. But if they can't understand that, you gotta do away with that individual, man, because that can bring you right back down that path, man. That can bring you right back down. Can bring you right back down. I've seen that. You do not want to allow that to happen. So if you just beginning this journey, or if you in the midst of it, when you making that transition from that old way to that new way, you got to be mindful in regards to who you associate with, who you are in relationships with, because these people can bring you down. That old way of life that you know is a wicked way of life, they can easily bring you back down to it, especially if they live in that old way of life that you just came from, that you just realized was a lie. Marlon, peace, what's going on with you, my brother? Saeed, no, I don't practice that, but when I wasn't like, I'm gonna tell you one thing, a lot of people don't necessarily believe it, but I was never one of those dudes that got a kick out of sleeping with a bunch of women. So the whole semen retention thing, man, I pretty much, before I got married, like, I only had one other serious relationship before that, and that was in high school. So I was pretty much practicing that by default, because I really wasn't out here entertaining, like I really wasn't out here on that. Like I said, I came into that knowledge of self at about, like right after I got out of high school, right after I had graduated. So from like 18 up until about 22, 23, man, I was discovering who I was as a person. So I really didn't have time for that. Yeah, I entertained a few people, but things didn't really last because, like I said, man, I was right in the midst of getting that knowledge of myself. I was on a personal journey. And if a lot of people couldn't understand that personal journey, then I had to do away with them. A lot of people that I was entertaining was into religion and stuff like that. And I was just learning the truth about religion. And I was like, man, it's hard for me to have a conversation with you because I'm learning this truth about religion, and that's what you clinging to. So a lot of relationships that I had when I had just started getting that knowledge of myself at 18, a lot of those things didn't last long because a lot of people that I was entertaining was still clinging to that old way of life. And the reason for that is because I was just transitioning from that old way of life. So that's who I knew the most. That's who I was friends with the most. People that was still clinging to that old way of life. So those were the people that were kind of clinging to me. And they were seeing that I was kind of transitioning into a new way of thinking. But they really wasn't ready for the information that I was bringing to them because it was challenging that old way of life that they were living. So that stuff didn't work well, man. So it was not working well. So with that being said, I was focusing a lot on myself. Because a lot of people at that time just really wasn't understanding what I was on at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. They couldn't fathom some of the stuff that I was doing and some of the stuff that I was saying because it was different. Oh, D-Monty Magic, it's all about the process. Embrace the process. That's what I tell people all the time, man. Embrace the process. That's the true way. That's the true way and the only way to like manifest anything in your life. Focus on the process because everything has a formula. Everything has an equation. Everything has a formula to it. In order to get an answer, there must be a formula. There must be an equation. Focus on that equation. Focus on that formula. If you want to do something, figure out how to do it. When you focus on the how-to, it's going to be hard for you to fail. It's going to be hard for you not to manifest whatever it is that you're striving to manifest. So I always tell people to focus on that formula, focus on that equation, because that's how you're going to get to the answer. Don't just focus on the answer because you need to know how we got there. We need to know how we got there, man. It's just like trigonometry, geometry, and all of that math that we hate. If somebody just gave you the answer but didn't break down how you got to the answer, man, you would be lost. You would be lost. You still wouldn't be able to pass that test. You needed to know how to solve that problem. You need to know how you got this answer. You need to know how you got x equals 12 or whatever the case may be. You needed to figure out how they got that end result. That end result, just knowing that in and of itself, did not help you when it came to test time. You needed to know how to solve the problem. So that's why it's always a great thing to focus on the process, focus on the formula, focus on the equation. Our resilient hustler, and again, that's something that I realized too. It's crazy because, and this is why I sort of have a different perspective when it comes to just like relationships. Because the crazy thing about it is, that's when I had to question the type of dudes that were really out here. Because I can't tell you how many times that I was, back then during that time, how many times that I would deal with women and I wasn't trying to sleep with them and stuff like that. And they were really surprised. Like they were surprised. And that that made them feel some type of way, like in a good way, because it was like, dang, that's crazy. You was talking to me, but you wasn't trying to sleep with me and things of that nature. So sometimes when a woman sees that discipline, like they attracted to that discipline. When they see that you just out to have a good time and you just out to build, you just out to converse with them, like they gonna respect that man and they respect that discipline. Certain women, like you have some that are just as savage sexually as they claim that dudes are. But for the most part, man, when you come across some women, man, and you just show them that discipline, like, it's not all about that, man. I'm just trying to have a decent conversation. I'm just trying to build with you. I'm trying to see what the mental is. I'm trying to see how your mental is, how the mind is. Like, that can be attractive in and of itself. And that's why I always tell dudes, man, when it comes to that type of advice, man, just stay true to yourself. Build up your mind. Because that's again, it's magnetism. It's magnetic. You're going to attract everything based off of that. Walker 4-4, peace, what's going on? Oh yeah, D Monty, yeah, the instant gratification. I almost don't even I don't even really like training people that want that quick fix. You got people, man, I've had people come to me and say they trying to lose 50 to 60 pounds in about 2 months. And I'm like, man, no, that's not how that works. You can do it, but you're going to have to starve yourself and it's going to be unhealthy. Instant gratification. People don't be wanting to put in the work. People don't be wanting to make things a lifestyle. It's supposed to be a lifestyle. It's supposed to be a culture. It's supposed to be a way of life. Instant gratification, I'm not with that. I'm not with it at all. I've never been a fan of it. I don't even like working with people that's their mindset, that's their mentality. I like to work with people that say, man, I'm trying to make this a lifestyle. I'm trying to exercise, but I'm trying to make this a lifestyle. See, those are the people that you would never lose as clients, as a trainer. So that's why I like to work with those people. I don't like working with the people that say, I want to lose X amount of pounds in such and such in 2 months. All right, so you lose that 60 pounds in 2 months, but you're not going to like how you look when you lose it because you're doing it the fast way. You're doing it the incorrect way. So what's next? That's why I tell people all the time, man, just focus on making it a lifestyle change. It's good to have your little weight loss goal, but at the end of the day, you should just be striving to live a healthier lifestyle. When you focus on living that healthier lifestyle, the weight is going to drop by default. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel great, fantastic. I mean, it's just going to be a lot of things that change for you when you just focus on living a healthier lifestyle opposed to saying, I just want to lose X amount of pounds. Because sometimes when you get to that weight, that target weight, you may not necessarily even like how it look. You may not like how you feel. So that's why I tell everybody, focus on just living a healthier lifestyle. Make that your way of life. That's what I encourage people to do in regards to my line of work, just training. So you should always be striving to make things a lifestyle, man, when it comes to major changes in your life. Resilient hustler, and I just had some new clients talk about they was considering getting surgery. I ended that quick. I said, no, you don't need that surgery. I said, if you trust me enough to get the job done for you, I'm gonna get the job done for you. You do not need surgery. And what's crazy is it's not necessarily even people that are truly obese or morbidly obese contemplating getting the surgery. It's people that's not even that big that's contemplating getting the surgery. So that's the world we live in, man. It's like you're not even that big. All you probably need to do is drop about 20, 30 pounds, literally. And that may be a stretch. It may really only need to be 15 pounds. And you contemplating surgery to remove that? It's not even that serious. It's not even that serious, man. But I deal with that on a regular basis, man. People really don't truly want to put in the work. People truly don't want to put in the work. And that goes back to the topic of this particular stream. Living a life you regret. You gonna regret that. You get that surgery, you make it to a certain age, you gonna look back and you gonna regret that surgery. And health and fitness is one of the things that I can tell people that when you on your deathbed, this is one thing you may look back on and regret. You may regret that you didn't take better care of yourself. It's gonna be a lot of people in that boat. I know that for a fact. It's gonna be a lot of people that look back on their life and say they wish they took better care of themselves. They wish they wasn't on this medication for the last 30, 40 years of their life. Their last 30 or 40 years was a struggle because they was on all these meds and they didn't take care of themselves. So that's gonna be the regret for a lot of people in the near future. A lot of people gonna regret not taking better care of themselves. They became a burden on their children. They became a burden on their grandchildren because they did not take care of themselves. Listen. All that you don't have to break down by default because you are aging. That don't necessarily come with aging, man. I know people that's in their 90s that's moving around just as good as people in their 30s and 40s. So they didn't lie to you. They didn't told you that as you get old, you just break down. That's not necessarily right and exact, man. You just got to take care of yourself. You don't have to suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's because you aging. That ain't got to happen to you by default. You ain't got to have these frail and fragile bones because you are aging. That's stuff that we are accepting. That's almost like the genetic argument. Oh, it's in my genes. It runs in my family. Those two things are comparable. It runs in my family and then old age. Man, you 45. What do you mean? Like your knee hurting and your back hurting. What do you mean because you getting older? Man, do you realize how young 45 is? And that's another thing that I was reading about in this book. They was talking about the science in regards to how long one could really live. And the reason why he came to 120 years, they basically took the time period that we typically stop growing and they multiplied it by 6. So they basically took about 2021 and they multiplied it by 6 and they got to 120 years. And I think that's somewhere in the Bible as well about living to 120. I forgot the actual verse. But I think it's around 120 years. Somebody can find that verse for me. But I think that's in the Bible somewhere about man living to like 120 years. But they said that that's pretty much the accurate, the number that we can live up to like efficiently, 120 years. So it's like when you look at 120 years and you start talking about you 40 and you 45, man, you a young bull. In some cultures, man, you 70 and you a young bull. Here in America, man, we looking at somebody like that 60 and 70 and we calling them old. Listen, man, if you 70 and you can make you making it to 120, you got 50 years left to live. When you at 60, you only reach the halfway mark. So I don't like it when people are 35 and they 40 and they talking about they are old. Bro, you not old, you are young, still in your prime. They done tricked us and they done made us believe that 20 and 30 is the prime. Nah, man, we got to reverse that. That ain't how other coaches live, man. You 75, these other coaches, they be 75 and they be 80 and they still be moving and grooving. We 75 and we 80 and we think we about to die in 10 years. And people don't even understand that just by us accepting that reality, that shortens our lifespan. So when you accept that reality, when you accept the fact that you may not live till you about 80 or 90, guess what you doing? Like you accepting that reality, so your mind gonna find reasons to make that a reality. So you don't have to accept that, but that's what they want us to accept. Oh, Forex, most definitely. So we already know and understand that. And like I said, that's going to be the regret. That's going to be a regret that a lot of people face, man, not taking better care of themselves. I see it all the time. People know that they need to do better, but they just not doing better. So the moment that big thing strikes them, regret. and they gonna hope they survive. I've seen it too many times, man. People not taking care of themselves, knowing they should, and then they had a heart attack, they had a stroke. At that point in time, it may be too late for you. So all those regrets, they striking you. So that's one thing that I know you can regret. So if you go out from that heart attack or that stroke, and you on your deathbed, and you know the reason why you had that heart attack and that stroke is because you didn't take better care of yourself, you be lying if you say you regret that. Oh, D Monty Magic, yeah, he definitely was a young bull. He definitely was. Man, G baby, when books on mental discipline, the subconscious mind is a good book about that because it actually lets you know how everything works on the subconscious level. So the subconscious mind, who is the author? Joseph Murray. That's a good book on mental discipline. And the reason why I say it's a good book on mental discipline is because you learn how to basically program the mind. Because you learn that everything that you do is a result of your subconscious mind. You understand that the subconscious mind truly has all the power. So if you really want to establish discipline, you got to learn how to program the subconscious mind to where it becomes second nature. The only way for that discipline to become second nature, you got to program the mind subconsciously. So that book is like the best book that I recommend, and it's a short read. And 3 Magic Words is another book, another great book when it comes to just building up the mind. Those are 2 great books, 3 Magic Words and the subconscious mind, the power of the subconscious mind. Yeah, Walker 4-4, and that's the reason why the author titled the book the way that he did. He said, of course, it's not like a guarantee that he's going to make it to 120 years, but it's just something that he just decided to do in his mind. And he said, once he decided that he was going to live to 120 years in his mind, like it started registering in his mind. His subconscious accepted that. So he started getting visions and things of that nature that was just reaffirming that he would be around that long, reaffirming that he will be able to be around that long. So that's why it's important. So just decide to live to 120 or figure out the age that you need to live to. It may not be 120. You may just need to live to 100 to do what it is that you need to do. So decide on an age, man, and just settle on it. Man, if 105, you want to make it to 100, 105, decide that. Settle on that. Settle on it. Say, all right, man, I'm living to 105. Whatever the age is, man, figure out your age. Figure out the age that you want to make it to. And focus on that. And say, okay, this is how long I'm going to be around. And see what happens to the mind. See the type of messages. See the type of visions that you encounter and that you manifest. Plan God, I've heard that. CCH piece, what's going on? And Plan God, I've heard that. Like I said, I don't have too much to say about weed smoke because I don't smoke, never have smoked. So I don't really have an opinion on the matter because I just heard things. I've even heard some rosters talk about the negative effects of weed and how it slowed them down and things of that nature. So, but I've also heard the pros of it too. So I don't know, man. I guess it just be dependent on the person. But I don't have much to say about that in regards to like my perspective on it. If you feel like it's helping you out, I'd rather you do that, like I said, than drink the liquor, drink the alcohol. I'd rather you smoke than eat the swine too. I'd rather you smoke the weed than eat the swine, drink the liquor. So I place all those things above that in regards to things you need to eliminate. So definitely make sure you're getting off the alcohol. Definitely make sure you're getting off the swine. Try to eliminate the poison animals all together and the dairy products. So like all that stuff is a little more destructive to me. Then if you feel like you need to quit smoking the weed just for a personal journey, just for a personal mission, then cool, I'm all for it. But I see a lot of people cling to it and use it as a crutch. And that's when it becomes a problem to me. That's when it becomes a problem to me. When you feel like you need it in order to like function, then it's obviously and it's clearly a crutch. And you don't want anything to become a crutch. Then it has power over you and you become dependent upon it. So you never want a substance or anything like that to become a crutch. Never. Our resilient hustler, you got it. You keep speaking that into existence, and that's exactly what's gonna happen for you. James Brown, peace, what's going on with you? T-Guy Zero, man, we was just talking about the semen retention. Like I said, obviously just being married, that's not something that I practice like consciously. But before I got married, man, and when I was going through the journey of knowledge of self, like I kind of practiced it unconsciously. I didn't necessarily intentionally say I'm practicing semen retention, but I never got a kick out of, like I said earlier, just sleeping with a bunch of women, man. So I was focused on becoming the best version of myself. I was doing what they would refer to as soul searching. So during that whole journey, you can say that I was practicing it. So, I mean, and when I was doing it, like I said, man, when you on that mission, when you trying to discover who you are, when you trying to discover what your purpose is, man, you just want to minimize a lot of distractions, man, a lot of things that can just zap that energy out of you. And then when you start studying the Chinese folks, man, they talk about Qigong, and they talk about the semen being the life force. And that's why they talk about semen retention, because they believe it's the life force. So they believe every time that you release the semen, you draining yourself of that life force, you draining yourself of your energy. So that's why they talk about it. That's why they refer to it as the Qi, life force. So a lot of them talk about semen retention when I was talking about Qigong. That's the first time that I came across it, studying Qigong, because they looked at it and they viewed it as a life force. So they was like, nah, you don't want to abuse that life force. So you want to preserve it. So that's the first time that I came in contact with it. And I was like 18, no, I probably like 19 or 20 when I came across it. Montel, there you go. Keep minimizing. Oh, G baby, and that, most definitely, and that's what you got to do. You got to learn to deal with that negative side of self, what they call the dark side. But in reality, that dark side is the positive side. You know how they do it. They make us view everything that's dark as bad, so they call it your dark side, which is the evil side. But in reality, that side ain't necessarily so evil. That side ain't necessarily so bad. So you got to embrace that dark side. You got to embrace that so-called negative side. That's the only way that you're going to really master self. That's really the only way that you're going to discover who self is, who you are. That's the only way that you're going to really discover that knowledge of self and come across that knowledge of self. You got to deal with all aspects of the self. All aspects of the self, whether it be positive or whether it be negative, whether it be destructive, whether it be constructive. You got to deal with all those aspects of self, and you got to learn to embrace it. D-Monty Magic, no sir. I don't care for nobody like that. I don't care for anybody that basically doubted me. Then when I showed and proved that they shouldn't have doubted me, that I was going to manifest this regardless to how they felt, now they want to jump on board and act like they always believed in me, but didn't believe in me when I was struggling or when I had the idea. I don't rock with nobody like that, man. That's a fake individual. That's an artificial individual. If you wasn't rocking with me through the struggle, if you wasn't rocking with me when I had the idea before I even started the struggle, manifesting that idea, I'm not rocking with you when I make it, when I manifest it. No, sir, no, not happening. Definitely not happening. I definitely don't roll with people like that. Hence why my circle is the way that it is. Plant God, man, I tend to meditate, man, but I create my own form of meditation. When I'm working out, that's a form of meditation for me. Like I'm meditating when I'm exercising. Then when I wake up in the morning, man, I strive to do the affirmations. I try to do my affirmations, put them on the headphones or something, or put them on like a little speaker in the morning, and I just zone out for about 10 to 15 minutes. So most definitely. Freezing the game, most definitely. But that's what I tell people, man. You want to look in the mirror to see God. You want to look in the mirror to find God. You can look within and find God. It's all there within you. It's all there within you. It's all there within you, man. But you gotta, like I said, embrace every aspect of self. Gotta embrace it. Tavon, most definitely, like I said, man, I was doing the knowledge to some Rastafarians, and they was talking about the ill effects of weed and things of that nature. And he talked about, one of them talked about just why he stopped and the whole science behind why he stopped and what it was doing to him. Nero, no doubt. I don't have time for artificial energy. I don't have time for those artificial people that act like they always was supporting me and they was always rocking with me. I ain't got time for that, man. You can keep that. You can keep that same energy. I don't need you rocking with me when I make it. When the struggle is done. I don't need you rocking with me. If you wasn't rocking with me through that struggle, I'm good on you. I'm good on you. If you doubted me when I presented you with this idea, I'm good on you. I don't need those type of people around me. And a lot of times, that's what tends to happen. We continue to entertain people like that. And that's how we get backstabbed. But really, truly, you didn't get backstabbed, man. You already knew that person was about that. They showed their true colors to you. You backstabbed yourself at that point. Plant God, yeah, they say eating it is better too. Yeah, mellow gassing. And before you can love yourself, you gotta know yourself. And that's what a lot of people don't know themselves. So it's hard to love something that you don't know. So you gotta know yourself before you are able to even love yourself. So that's important. That's why I tell everybody to get down to the roots of who you truly are. Who are you? You gotta ask yourself that question until you able to define it, man. Define it efficiently. Define it quickly. If you can't define who you are quickly and efficiently, and it's the same every time, you got to continue to ask yourself that, man. You got to do some fasting, man. You got to dig deep within yourself to discover who you are. Oh, plant God, most definitely, man. Like I said, a lot of people got their things to say about 2020, but I did some powerful things in 2020. Like everything is what you make it. So I did some powerful things in 2020. Yeah, it's some crazy things that happen, but that's every year and that's every day. You're gonna have ups and downs every year, every day, every month, every week. So that's the nature of life. So it's gonna always be ups and downs. But it's a lot of powerful things that happened in 2020, just as it was some negative things, some destructive things that happened, some chaotic things that happened. But that's life. That's life. That's how it works. Yeah, Sharif, and like I said, man, I read that passage, and I'll read it one more time for the people that's just now coming in. The passage that just kind of inspired this video, and the reason why I asked the question in the title. It's this book I'm reading, and it say the top 5 regrets of the dying. That's the book that he's quoting from. The most common regret of people facing death is this: I should have had the courage to live a life that was true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Here are some regrets expressed by the dying. I shouldn't have worked so much. I should have had the courage to express my feelings. I should have stayed in contact with my friends, and I should have made myself happier. So those are some regrets by some people who are on their deathbed. So you got to ask yourself, if you was placed on your deathbed, man, will you be able to look back at your life from here all the way back to the beginning, from now until the beginning, and truly be like, all right, I lived the life that I wanted to live? I asked myself that question about 2 years ago, and the answer to that was no. So that's when I started making some decisions, man. That's when I started doing some powerful things for myself, and I started living the life I know I wanted to live and I needed to live for myself. Because I was like, man, if something happened to me and I was on my bed and I was looking back on my life from now into the beginning, I'd be like, man, I'm not too fond of it. And that was just me being honest with myself. So I started changing up some things and just making some more powerful decisions. Static saying, peace, what's going on? Demonte, most definitely. Like I said, I definitely did some manifesting this year, man. Definitely. Definitely put in some work. Definitely produced some things this year. Most definitely. Yeah, Sharif, man, and that's what I was, and that's the thing. So it was easy for me to look back and say, oh no, I don't regret nothing. I learned from those mistakes, but I truly had to ask myself if something happened to me that was major, and I had to look back on my life. Nah, because at that point I don't care about what I learned from my mistakes because now it's too late to do anything about it. So that's how you got to put that in perspective. If something happened to you to where you know that you wasn't gonna be able to do anything about those mistakes that you made in the past, like, are you truly satisfied with how you lived? So at that point, I was like, nah. So I had to change. I had to change some things when I looked at it like that. Resilient hustler like when it comes to that, the reality that I have accepted about that, and it's not necessarily the most positive reality about what happens to us after we die. One thing that I just roll with, everything that my body is made of consists within the universe. So at the end of the day, these particles that I'm made of, they're gonna go right back into the universe and keep everything in circulation. So I don't deal with nothing that pertains to an afterlife or things of that nature. The afterlife is when you have children, in my regards, or like the legacy that you leave behind. That's life after you. So whatever work that you put in during your time on this earth, like that's gonna be your legacy. And that's your afterlife. That's life after you. That's life after you. Or if you have children, the seeds that you plant, like the empire that you're building, that's life after you. That's the only life after death that I deal with. Other than that, when it's time for you to go, like everything that you made of exists within the universe. So them particles going right back in the universe to keep life in rotation. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. I cannot fathom the whole notion of like afterlives and things of that nature. It's just not something that I've necessarily, it doesn't resonate with me. But like we say, return back to the essence. The essence is the universe. So that's something that just makes sense to me. So that's the essence. And we know that energy can't be created nor destroyed. It just transforms. So we are a bundle of energy. So that's all that's going to happen. It's just going to transform into something else. Sherwin, appreciate that donation. Oh, Ricardo, no doubt. Again, I got plenty of people in my family that believe in that. More so heaven and hell are just a state of mind to me. So right now, basically me manifesting the life that I want to live is heaven. And it's just states of mind. It's a state of mind. Heaven and hell, man, conditions of the mind. So you can create your own heaven. And that's one thing, I feel like that's a way that they kind of got us in slavery. They made us feel like we had to die to get our reward. They made us feel like we had to die to get the pie in the sky. Meanwhile, they was creating their heaven here on earth. So that's one reason why that concept didn't never resonate with me, because they had our ancestors believing in this whole pie in the sky type deal, and that basically made a lot of them passive. They was like, because what's good gonna come to me after I die. Meanwhile, they didn't even believe that because they was creating their heaven right here on earth. But it is what it is. At the end of the day, whatever helps you get through life, I'm all here for it. Whatever helps you get through life, whatever helps you sleep at night, whatever helps you be righteous or the best person that you can be, I'm here for it. Playing God, and I asked that question to a person. I asked somebody. They was like, "What happened? What happens to you after you die?" I said, "Well, how was life before you were born?" And that right there pretty much ended that conversation when I had asked them that simple question. Like we ain't know nothing about life and how it was before we were born, so it's just gonna go back to that. It ain't necessarily a rewarding and pleasant thought. But it is what it is. That's why I say make the best out of the time that you have now. That's imperative and that's crucial. That's imperative and that's crucial. Terenzo, what's going on? So that's why you got to really embrace the life that you are currently living in, the time that you have now. Strive to do whatever it is that you need to do. Strive to do whatever it is that you want to do, because you just don't know. So I don't forget it. You don't know. We really don't know. Whatever theory we want to cling to, at the end of the day, we don't know what happens when we cease to exist. So why not focus on making the best out of the time that you have now, and why not focus on making the life that we have now the best that we can? Because we truly don't know what happened. Yeah, resilient people definitely take it for granted. People definitely take it for granted. People definitely take life for granted, and we need to stop doing that. People definitely take life for granted, man. We think that things are guaranteed. We pushing off our dreams. We pushing off our passion and our interests, thinking that we're gonna have time to pursue them. Oh, I'll pursue this 10 years from now, about 5 to 10 years. Man, you don't know if you're gonna be here 5 to 10 years from now. So start pursuing it, start putting in that work right now. What's going on? My client just walked in, y'all. I'm about to drill him. About to try to kill him on a Sunday. So I'm gonna catch y'all later. Client in here. It's time to kill him. All right, y'all.